In today's video, I am going to be breaking down different motion offenses that work fantastic at multiple different ages, all the way from basically grade 3 and up. So basically, what makes a fantastic motion offense is one that will help you basically run the same play against a man-to-man defense as well as a zone defense. So let's get down, let's check out these basketball plays, but really quickly, make sure to go check out my complete guide to the 5-out basketball offense, which is down in the description below. So this first play is going to be a 4-out, 1-in motion offense. Basically, you have 4 players outside of the 3-point line and 1 player in. That's why it's a 4 out, 1 in. And we're going to be running this deep with the players in the corners instead of having them at the elbows. The reason why I really like to run the 4 out this way is because it will help teach my team, especially if you're coaching younger teams, how to spread out a bit more. And also it's a lot better to spread out if you were to play against a zone defense anyways. So first we're going to run this play up against a man, and then I'm going to show you it against a zone. So first off, what we're going to have is a pass from player 1 over to player 2. This pass could have gone to 2 or to player 3. It doesn't necessarily matter, but to start off, let's say we're going to pass to player 2. When that happens, we're going to have player 5 run up and set a back screen on player 1. When player 1 gets that back screen, player 1's going to decide to either attack or cut right or to cut left. When he does cut towards the basket, what's going to happen now is going to be player 2 is going to be looking to pass him the ball for the layup. Now you may be saying, well, that's just way too easy. This guy is going to cut him off. Well, actually, if that does happen, player 1 can then kick the ball out for a 3-point shot. Or player 4 can cut back door, noticing that his man is no longer guarding him, and this could end up with a floater or layup or mid-range shot. If, however, player 1 was not open, let's say player 1's defender was able to get around that screen, what we're then going to have is player 5 is going to then set a screen away, player 1 is going to be going into the post, and player 3 is going to be then popping back up towards the point. He may be open for a 3-point shot. That is an option. Player 1 is then going to at the same time clear out, and player 5 is going to go back into that low post. However, when he comes off of this screen, we really want him rolling towards the basket because he may also be open for a layup. When he goes back into the low post, it's going to be on the ball side. And then we can run the exact same thing on the other side where we would pass to player 3. And player 5 would then, of course, set that screen up and player 2 could cut towards the basket. Or I can show you the other option to this same exact play. And that would be player 2 passing to player 4 in the corner. At that time, we're still going to have player 5 set that screen for player 2. And player 2 is going to be then cutting towards the basket. If he's open for that layup, definitely hit him up for that layup. If not, what's going to happen is after that screen, player 2 is going to continue out to the opposite post because we want to have this side cleared out. And after that screen, we want player 5 to also roll towards the basket because he may be also open for a layup. At this time, we're going to have player 3 fill, player 1 fill, and of course, player 2 fill. You could also run this a separate way if you've got an older team where instead of player 5 rolling, so for example, after player 2 makes that pass and player 5 sets that back screen on player 2, if player 2 is covered, instead of having player 5 roll off as well, what you could do now is have player 5 set that secondary screen, kind of like how we were doing on this side anyways, and have player 3 then fill that spot. He could be open for a 3. And coming off of that screen, player 5 can roll towards the basket and may also be open. Meanwhile, player 1 and 2 will fill. And of course, this could have been a pass to player 5 for a layup. Now, when the ball is down in this corner, if player 4 makes that pass out, same thing, player 5 is going to still set that screen for whoever makes that pass. Player 4 is going to then cut towards the basket and may be open for a layup. Again, now, because we screened for the corner, we want to make it so that we can now switch those players. So player 5 is going to pop, and then player 4 now is going to be that low post player. So now, when player 3 makes that pass, player 4 is going to be the one who's setting that screen. And then you can continue to cycle through this play. Okay, so let's say we're going against a 2-3 zone. Well, what's going to happen in a 2-3 zone is the exact same thing. Most likely the defense is going to be shifted just like so, and from here what we're going to have is the exact same thing happen. We can have player 1 pass over to player 2, and we will still have player 5 set that back screen for player 1. Player 1 will be cutting towards the basket, and of course if he's open, then he could take that shot. However, that's going to be a very difficult shot. I always like to teach my team to move off ball, so player 4 could cut across for a mid-range shot, but again, we want to try to cycle this through for this play. So at this time, what we're going to have is player 1 to continue out, and now we can have player 5 set that screen for player 2. Player 2 is going to be coming off of that screen, and now instead of player 5 rolling towards the basket, we want to see him roll towards the high post. This is key in a zone defense. If we're playing against a zone, we want to get that ball to the high post. Now, he could take that shot, but that's going to be rising up player 5. If player 1 can cut before player 3 comes off of that screen, if this can be ran quick enough, this should be a high to low post pass for a layup. And essentially you would be running through the exact same motions as we were with the man-to-man defense. However, when we roll to the basket, instead of going to the low post, we would be looking to roll to the high post so that we can get our corners to cut baseline. That is the only difference when we're going up against a zone defense. Next is a 5-out offense, and I absolutely love the 5-out basketball plays. I also have a complete guide to the 5-out basketball offense down in the description. I know I mentioned that earlier as well. But against a man-to-man and zone defense, the best option, that is the most easiest option, is the pass and cut. So we'll have a pass over to player 4, and player 1 can cut to the rim. When this happens, of course, he may be open for a layup. If he's not, we're going to have player 5 fill, player 2 fill, and of course, player 1 fill out. Obviously, the defense is going to shift, and that is essentially how it's going to look. However, there are so many different options with the 5-out that we can continuously run it as a motion offense, and we can even add in different aspects of plays to be able to suit what we need out of the 5-out offense. I'll give you a very good example against a zone right now. Now, for example, let's say we're going against a 2-3 zone. Now, the reason why I keep on going back to a 2-3 zone is because, of course, it is the most widely used zone right now for youth basketball, and every single team I have coached up against over the past couple of months have used the 2-3 zone. I've ran up against a team that ran a 2-1-2 as well, and it gave us troubles until we beat it, and then in the fourth quarter they ran a 2-3, and then we were just still stuck, and it was just not a fantastic game. It was our worst game of the season, but either way, the 2-3 zone is the most widely used, at least what I've seen so far. So basically, you're going to be having a trap up top. Players 3 and 4 are going to be probably moving a bit higher, and player 5 is going to be guarding that low post. Same idea, when you pass the ball, you can cut to the rim, and of course, we could be looking to still have that pass into the high post when we cut, and then that's going to be collapsing usually these players on this side, in which case player 2 blue could be cutting down baseline, where we're going to have a high to low post pass. Now, this is obviously an option. We need to make very quick passes. However, if you're in Europe, or for example, if you are going up against a 2-3 zone and you notice this, you could draw this up, and it's actually a very simple play. As long as you've got players who are over the age of grade 7 or grade 8, you can generally run this next play, and it suits right, or it moves right into the 5-out motion super easily. Let me explain. So we personally call this zone go. It actually works against the man-to-man defense as well, but we're going to have the corner men, they're going to be popping up to the high post. At the exact same time, we're going to be having players 2 and 3 moving down into the corners. Now, this is extremely important because we want to get that initial pass into the high post, and there is a reason behind that. The reason is that draws up player 5 and moves players 4 and 3 down in that zone. If we have player 4 who is not protecting the paint, then at that point, we would have player 4 cut down so that we can get a high to low post pass, and it's a super easy layup. We've scored a lot on this play alone. However, we're also wanting to move player 1 over towards this side at the exact same time, because I've noticed that many players in that 2-3 zone will head down and try to trap that high post because it's a deadly area, in which case we can get a wide open 3 from player 1 going to the ball side, which just makes it super easy. However, if player 4, red, moves in, and now we have essentially collapsed this defense, we want to move player 4 continuously out, acting like he's trying to post up this side. A lot of teams will make that mistake and have player 4 come way over here, in which case we want the opposite side to cut baseline for an alley-oop. Again, something that we've ran a lot and been very successful with. Something else that we have seen when we have those players who pop to, of course, the high post, is when we make this pass initially in, if this player makes a mistake and doesn't cut right away, or we have player 3 or 5 or both making a mistake and popping up to try to defend that high post, because again, so many coaches will be afraid of having the ball in that high post that it opens up multiple different options for, again, a nice high to low post pass from the ball side corner cutting towards the basket. Now, whatever it may be, if player 4, let's say, cuts, let's say that's not open, player 1's on this side, then at that point, what we will have is something that is very simple to run, and that is we will then have player 3 cut up towards that point, pass back to the point, and then we will have player 4 clear out, and then we'll have player 1 cut through, player 4 fill up, and player 5 fill out. That way we have lots of movement, and again, we should have the ability to swing that ball and cut to the basket, pass and cut, which is what we just did, because we've now shifted the ball over towards the other side. The defense should be no longer balanced and should open up lanes down the middle. That's why I always like to teach the basics of pass and cut, pass and screen away, and also pass and screen for the player that you pass to in the 5-out offense. This is a very simple option that you can run once you run through your 5-out offense. So for example, if you have a set 5-out basketball play like I just showed you, you can then teach your team, hey, if there's an open spot, cut across the key. Somebody from the opposite side has to fill that spot so that we can basically have our 5-out again. And by having a player cut across the key, he may be open, but also by swinging it from one side to the other side, in from our set play being ran on one side to now our motion being ran on the other side, we now are shifting that zone so that now there should be holes in that zone to be able to cut, drive, and of course finish at the rim through. These are two very simple, if you're coaching basically grade 6 or 7 and older, basketball offenses. You can really dumb this down and run just a simple pass and cut, pass and of course screen away and screen for, and I'll show you that in 2 seconds. However, this is a very easy set of offenses to run with most teams. So what I mean by pass and cut is, of course, pass and cut to the rim. And then when you do that, of course, you're going to have players who fill out just like so. For pass and screen away, you passed this way, you're screening away. You would have player 5 then using that screen, player 1 rolling towards the basket. You have 2 options to score, and then you would have player 2 fill and player 1 fill. And then there's pass and screen for, which is pass and screen for the player you pass to. When you use that screen, player 1 would then roll towards the basket. Could be option 1 for the layup, or you may have player 3 who's popping to the wing or free throw line extended for that pass. And then of course player 1 would then fill out, and of course you are still in your 5-out offense. I hope that this play has helped you, or these basketball plays have helped your team win more games. Make sure to go check out the complete guide to the 5-out basketball offense down in the description below, and I'll see you guys again next time.